This is a pecan tree that I grafted twice, and it's been a failure. I'm gonna have to try a different method of grafting it. As you can see, the regular grafting didn't work. I followed all instructions. I did everything according to protocol, but apparently I missed something. Well, that one's failed. But at the very same time, I grafted that tree over there that you see with the light green foliage, and that one is doing very well. I found a really nice pecan that was growing about 30 miles from me, and it had some really big nuts, and they didn't have anything inside of them because it was growing around concrete and it wasn't getting enough water. Our summers are too dry. You gotta have irrigation pretty much in most of the nation these days. But anyway, I liked it. So this one's successful. It's a big tree. I had to cut the whole tree down because it had tiny nuts. And then this is how I keep my horses from rubbing and tearing up stuff. I have to actually put barbed wire around things temporarily. I reuse it. I only bought one roll of it, and I've been able to do everything on the 23 acres area, plus have some for other stuff. But see how the little scions grew right here and came through here, and I had the tape here, and there's the original scion I cut, was this piece right here, and then now it's got a really long shoot, and this was all in just a couple of months. And I tried another type of grafting here called patch grafting, and it would have been successful, but the bud didn't take. So it's alive and making a union, but the bud didn't take. And I did have the heart under it, so I don't know what happened there, but I'm going to try more. It was obviously the wrong season for that. It's about the season now to do it. I did that first thing in the spring, and the bark was slipping perfectly, but the bud wasn't mature enough. That's what I'm assuming. But this, so far, is a successful graft, as you can see. And I should have put it on the bigger one. But in order for it to be successful, this and this will have to actually cover this empty growth. It'll have to cover this up with good wood so it won't rot. And it would be very hard for it to cover a stump this wide. So this will just have to rot out, and then this one will take over. Then it'll probably make a shoot or two, which I'll keep, and then I'll probably graft another onto it if it does that. We'll see. And I also did some grafting called the 4-flap graft. Most of those failed too. One of them made it, or maybe two, but those grafts are too close to other trees, and I just did them to trees that the squirrels planted, because most of my nuts go to the squirrels and wildlife. I never get any. I just don't. They get them first. By the time they start to ripen, the squirrels have already picked them all before they're completely ripe. They don't even make a chance of falling out of the trees. And I get a heavy crop. See, these are pretty heavy crop. The end of every branch has nuts. But the squirrels will be getting them as soon as they get filled up. And it was a really dry year, like usual, because my figs, which I have lots of them, I didn't want to pull any weeds away because they needed the shade. They're now just starting to fill out. Normally by now I'd have baby figs on all of them, but most all don't have baby figs. Had bad years. This Huzu bamboo, which you're looking at, froze completely from its giant, huge poles. It froze completely down 3 years ago from 12 below zero. And then last winter, it got 0 degrees. And this is Fahrenheit. And that's very cold. And it froze it down. So now it's just recovering and trying to come back. and it was extremely dry. I mean, every summer. This is the first 2 rains I've had all summer that count for anything. So all my fig trees and stuff are way behind. This is a Ronde de Bordeaux fig, and I think there's no figlets on it at all. Anyway, there's another grafted tree. This one had really tiny nuts, and I grafted it to that little thing right there, and then this one right here, the light green section. I had to cut it off and graft it. And as you can see, it's not easy. The branch right there, those 2 scions died. They didn't make it. One of them started to make it, but it died. I don't know what I did wrong. I followed every protocol. They're unwrapped now. I had finally unwrapped them because that one might have died from being wrapped too long, just a week too long. It started getting too moist under there and drowned out, I guess. And it's very important to keep maintaining the grafts. I have to rub all this lower growth off of the original tree, or it will quit feeding that graft. I can't walk out here because this is all loaded with briar vines. Just choked with briar vines. So I'm barefoot. I'm not gonna, I go everywhere barefoot, so. So that's it. This is the Huzu, and it never used to have that ragged appearance until we got that freeze, but I'll have the bamboo out of here pretty soon. The horses just love it. They rub on it and snap it off, all the dead stuff. So I'm pretty happy with them taking care of things. And this pear tree is loaded with pears. They're about ready to pick. I'll be getting them off soon. And you can see that brown color on there, that's fire blight. It's always going to be in your fig trees if you live in an area that's prone for it. There's no spray that really works whatsoever. There is no method that's going to work whatsoever. It rarely ever kills a tree outright. It just sets them back on certain years when the climate is conducive for the bacteria to spread and grow. And the spores carry through the winds. They're microscopic. You cannot stop it. No amount of cleanliness or throwing away brush is going to help. The trees will naturally recover, brush or not, when the weather changes. And I've had these trees for freaking 25 years. And I know all about this fire blight stuff. And don't be scammed by purchasing poisons and things like that. They don't work. You don't want to throw away all your debris from the pears. That's not going to help either. See, this is a perfectly healthy one here. Yet you can see the tips were stricken last year. But look at the beautiful fruiting it's got this year. I mean, it's just covered in fruits except where the horses can reach. See, what you're looking at here is a permaculture farm that is wildlife and livestock friendly. I have 2 great big 2,000-pound apiece percherons, and they run around here eating what they want, doing what they want. And also, I have a hunter next door who leases some land, and he drops off pigs, or other people do. See the rooting you can see on the ground here? That's what wild pigs did before the rainstorm last night. They rooted up the ground, and you can see where they chowed down on the fallen fruit. Little tiny pieces of pears all chewed up by the pigs, and pig tracks sunk in the mud. Deep pig tracks. Even that's just this morning, I see. Yeah, they're always around, but when winter comes, they'll shoot them all off, and then they'll stock 2 more females again whenever hunting season ends in springtime. And then by around July and August, they'll have had a bunch of babies, and then the babies will be with them, like right now. The 2 sows can have about a dozen babies apiece, and then they have second litter before winter, and then there's enough pigs for them to go play with. But it's illegal, so nobody ever tells anybody that's what they're doing. But when I was a kid in 1970, the sportsman's books used to advertise in the back of them about people paying to go hunt wild hogs. They're not the same thing as a Russian boar. Those don't breed like wild pigs do. And those don't, you're not going to find those very often at all. What we have is just ordinary old speckled and white and brown and everything wild pigs. Domesticated, dumped feral pigs. Free-ranging pigs is what they are. The hunters get a corn feeder, and it's on all the time with a timer, and it spits out corn twice a day, morning and night, and a certain amount that they time it for. Then they dump a couple pigs around there, and the pigs know about it. They stay around the corn, but they range out a mile or so, but they don't go much more than that. Usually not even much more than a few thousand yards from the feeder their whole life, and then they get shot. So it's kind of like they get to farm pigs on your land and shoot them when hunting season comes, because they always come back to the feeder in time for the corn. Yeah, that's what goes on. So the true reason for the hunting problem, or the hog problem, is stalking them. They're getting stalked, because I don't have any more in the wintertime, and then I get them every summer. They're trying to stop that by making it illegal to even move the pigs or even eat the pigs, because otherwise they're going to keep carrying them around and dumping them everywhere. But the fact is, people like to shoot stuff. They enjoy watching things kick and die while they pop them with a bullet. That's the true facts. And they don't really want the meat, so they've even got them to go ahead and donate it to butcher shops. And then the private butcher shops make a ton of money because we all have to pay to get them slaughtered. And then the deer slaughtered, it costs way more than it would just to let them stay on their welfare checks and eat food the kids really want to eat. But we pay extra so they can butcher those deer, because the hunters don't want to eat them. They take them and throw them out in an ice chest in front of the slaughterhouse in the morning, and then you can see them out there. Might be 2 or 3 days old sometimes, but they'll dump them out there, and then the butcher will wake up in the morning and go take them and pull them in one by one and butcher them. You really don't know where the deer came from or anything, whether it was really roadkill or not. Most people that I know that I've met that actually were poor enough, I think I met a girl 25 years ago, she was poor enough to go over there and ask for it. Well, found out she was just feeding it to her dogs. She wasn't actually eating it either. Most people that I've known of say they feed it to their dogs. It's just a thing that they do to try to keep people hunting, because there's so much money involved in it. They make a ton of money off hunting. I remember when Christmas was a big thing when I was a kid, hunting wasn't so promoted because we didn't have big mega hunting stores. Now we do. And the mega stores are bigger than Walmart, like Bass Pro Shops. It's huge. I mean, it's like acres huge. And they're so big, and they make so much money with Chinese profits from Chinese factories that they don't care about what happens to the American animals. They just want to keep people out in the woods buying sporting goods stuff. And they're so mega rich that they're now allowed to pay the politicians legally and pay the commissioners that actually decide the game laws at the Game and Fish. They give them under the table money legally, and they give them gifts and sponsors and stuff like that, so they'll keep seasons longer, and even rare animals will get hunted longer, so they can sell more turkey calls and more duck hunting equipment, things that make way more money than Christmas ever did. Christmas came once a year. Hunting is all season, all winter, all spring, all fall. There's always an animal to kill or shoot sometime of the year. And they're sure spending a lot of money on it. My parents probably spent less than $500 on Christmas for all 4 of us kids. And then now I know that a hunter will spend $5,000 on a 4-wheeler and a gun alone. Not to mention his hunting lease and his stuff. And he's not feeding his family. I mean, there's not enough animals to do that. A lot of hunters go out and don't get anything but about 30 pounds of meat off of a deer, and that's at best if they're lucky enough to get a deer that year. Meanwhile, they spend $5,000, $10,000 a year driving around and buying 4-wheelers and going places to hunt them. And that's just how it really is. Enough of the rants.